I know what you did. 4 simple words. I whispered them against her ear as I leaned over her coffin, my lips barely moving, my face a mask of grief for the cameras and the mourners. No one heard me. No one saw the slight twitch of her perfectly made-up face. The mortician's finest work couldn't hide that final reflex. They thought I was saying goodbye to my beloved wife. They had no idea I was greeting her in hell. 6 months earlier, I was Owen Harmon, successful real estate developer, loving husband, and, according to my doctor, dying man. Your symptoms concern me, Dr. Levine had said, peering at my latest blood work. The fatigue, irregular heartbeat, nausea. I want to run more tests. I nodded, trying to process what he was saying. At 42, I'd always been healthy, a former college athlete who still hit the gym 4 times a week. Rachel and I had built our real estate company from nothing into a $15 million operation with 50 employees across 3 counties. We worked hard and played harder. Life was good, until it wasn't. That night, I sat Rachel down in our kitchen, the custom-designed heart of our 4,200-square-foot home in Beacon Heights, the exclusive neighborhood we'd developed ourselves. Doctor says something's wrong with my heart, I told her, reaching for her hand across our marble island. Probably nothing, but he's worried. Rachel's eyes widened, her fingers tightening around mine. What? That's impossible. You're the healthiest person I know. That's what I thought too. I shrugged, attempting nonchalance. But these symptoms came out of nowhere. We'll get a second opinion, she said firmly, standing up to pour us both a glass of wine. She handed me mine, her wedding ring catching the light. 3 carats of flawless diamond that had cost me a small fortune when I proposed 8 years ago. The best specialists in the country. Whatever it takes. She was so convincing, so concerned. I believed her completely. That was the last authentic moment of our marriage. 3 weeks later, the symptoms had worsened. Dizziness, vision problems, vomiting that left me shaking on the bathroom floor. I was losing weight, 10 pounds in less than a month. Rachel was perfect. She drove me to appointments. She researched specialists. She joined online support groups for caregivers. She even started a small fundraiser through our church to help with mounting medical bills, despite the fact that we had excellent insurance and more than enough money. Trevor McKinnon, my business partner since our dorm room days at UC Berkeley, stepped up too. He took on extra work at the office, visited regularly, and provided a shoulder for Rachel to cry on during her darkest moments. You're lucky to have her, Trevor told me one evening as we sat on my back deck overlooking the pool. Rachel was inside, preparing a special heart-healthy dinner. Not every woman would be this strong. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. The sunset blurred before my eyes, golden light fragmenting like broken glass. I reached for my heart medication, a new prescription Dr. Levine had reluctantly started me on after my condition deteriorated. Trevor watched me wash down the pill with water from the glass Rachel had left for me. You'll get through this, he said. We're all here for you. He sounded so sincere. It happened purely by accident. Rachel was showering. I was looking for my phone charger in her nightstand drawer. We often borrowed each other's. Instead, I found a cheap burner phone tucked beneath her lingerie. Curious, I picked it up. The lock screen showed a notification. Start adding half a tablet. He won't notice. We'll have everything by fall. T. I stared at it, uncomprehending. Then, with trembling fingers, I swiped to unlock. The phone opened without a password. Rachel had never been good with technology. What I found destroyed my world in 60 seconds. Hundreds of messages between Rachel and Trevor, explicit photos, plans for their future together, financial discussions about my company, that they would control after he's gone, and the poison, digoxin. My heart medication wasn't treating an illness. It was causing one. The symptoms match heart failure perfectly, Rachel had written. Doctor totally bought it. Added benefit, if he dies of natural causes, the insurance pays double. The bathroom door opened. I heard Rachel humming as she toweled off. With mechanical precision, I replaced the phone exactly as I'd found it and closed the drawer. When she emerged in her silk robe, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, still as stone. "You okay, babe?" she asked, concerned. "You look pale." I looked up at the woman I'd loved for a decade, the woman who was systematically killing me for money. "Just tired," I said, forcing a weak smile. "Think I'll turn in early?" She kissed my forehead. "Good idea. I'll bring you your night meds." "Thanks," I whispered. "You always take such good care of me." That night, as Rachel slept beside me, I made my decision. I wouldn't confront them. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't go to the police. Not yet. No, they deserved something special, something worthy of their betrayal. I would become the actor of a lifetime. I would let them think they were winning, and I would destroy them both so completely that death would seem merciful by comparison. The next morning, I started my performance. I grew weaker. I lost more weight. I vomited more frequently, especially after meals Rachel prepared. But what she didn't know was that none of her poison was entering my system anymore. I switched our cups when she wasn't looking. I slipped her half doses of digoxin in her morning coffee, her afternoon tea, her evening wine. Just enough to create symptoms, not enough to kill. I emptied my pills into the toilet each night while pretending to take them. 3 weeks in, Rachel developed a persistent cough. Her face grew gaunt. Her thick brown hair started falling out in clumps. "You don't look so good," I told her one morning as she stared at herself in the mirror, horror in her eyes at the gray pallor of her skin. "Just stressed," she said quickly. "Worried about you. Maybe you should see doctor." "Levine yourself," I suggested innocently. Trevor visited that evening. I watched from the staircase as he pulled Rachel into the kitchen, his voice a harsh whisper. "What the hell is happening to you? You look worse than he does." "I don't know," she hissed back. "I feel like shit. Maybe it's stress. Or maybe you're being careless with the pills," Trevor snapped. "You can't mix them up. Jesus, Rachel, we're so close." I smiled in the darkness of the hallway. I'd already begun phase 2. Over the next 3 months, I built my case meticulously. First, the surveillance, hidden cameras in every room of our house, capturing Rachel and Trevor's every conversation, voice-activated recorders tucked into couch cushions and bedside lamps, a secretly installed app that mirrored her burner phone to my private laptop. Second, the financial trail. I hired a forensic accountant, told him I suspected employee theft at the company. He uncovered everything. How Rachel had set up a fake cancer foundation in my name, siphoning donations into accounts only she could access. How she'd forged medical documents using contacts from her previous job at Mercy Hospital. How Trevor had diverted company funds through shell corporations, preparing for my inevitable death. Third, the legal preparations. I consulted an attorney specializing in estate fraud, keeping my real suspicions vague but my documentation meticulous. I revised my will, removing Rachel entirely and naming my sister Elise, whom Rachel had systematically alienated from me years ago, as sole executor. I transferred my most valuable assets to offshore accounts Rachel knew nothing about, all while playing the dying husband to perfection. By month 4, Rachel panicked. Her symptoms had progressed far beyond what she could explain away. Her hair was coming out in handfuls. She'd lost 20 pounds. Her hands shook constantly. "I think I need to see a doctor," she finally admitted one night, tears in her eyes. "About time," I said gently, stroking her thinning hair. "I've been worried sick." The irony nearly made me laugh. Dr. Levine was baffled by Rachel's symptoms. Blood tests showed dangerous levels of cardiac glycosides, the same family as digoxin. He suspected accidental exposure or environmental contamination. "Perhaps you're both being exposed to something in your home," he suggested gravely. Rachel's eyes met mine across his office, wild with fear and confusion. For a moment, I thought she might confess everything right there. Instead, she doubled down. "Owen needs me," she insisted. "I'll figure this out later." That night, Trevor came over. They argued violently in the guest bathroom with the shower running to mask their voices. They didn't know about the waterproof microphone I'd installed behind the vanity mirror. "You have to finish it," Trevor hissed. "You're running out of time. Look at you. You'll be dead before he is at this rate." "I can't keep the dosage straight anymore," Rachel sobbed. "My mind is foggy. I'm seeing double sometimes." "Then give him the whole bottle at once. Make it look like an accident or a suicide. We're too close to lose everything now." I smiled as I listened to the recording later. They'd given me exactly what I needed. 2 weeks later, Rachel collapsed at home. She'd been growing increasingly disoriented, her symptoms accelerating as I carefully increased her exposure. I'd calculated everything precisely, dangerous enough to frighten her, not enough to kill. I called 911, performed CPR while waiting for the ambulance, played the desperate husband to absolute perfection. Even the paramedics were moved by my devotion. At the hospital, the doctors were perplexed. Rachel's symptoms mimicked advanced cardiac failure, but she had no history of heart problems. When they asked about medications in our home, I helpfully mentioned my digoxin prescription. "She's been so stressed caring for me," I told the sympathetic ER doctor. "I've been dealing with similar symptoms for months. She's my hero." Tests confirmed digoxin toxicity. The doctors assumed cross-contamination or accidental ingestion. Rachel was too weak to protest, too confused to keep her story straight. When they mentioned potential brain damage from prolonged toxicity, I broke down in tears. "Whatever it takes," I told them. "I'll sell everything we own for her treatment." Rachel improved slightly under their care, but the damage was extensive. Her heart was permanently weakened. Her kidneys were failing. The prognosis was poor. Trevor visited her once in the hospital. I made sure to be there, playing the grateful friend, the devoted husband. The cameras I'd hidden in my briefcase captured their whispered exchange when I stepped out for coffee. "What the hell happened?" Trevor demanded. "I don't know," Rachel slurred, the toxins still affecting her speech. "Maybe he figured it out. Maybe he's doing to me what we planned for him." "That's insane. Owen's too stupid to catch on. You must have messed up the doses." "We need to stop," Rachel whispered. "I'm dying, Trevor." "We're too deep now," he replied coldly. "Once he's gone, we'll get you the best treatment money can buy. In the meantime, stick to the story." When I returned with coffee, Trevor patted my shoulder sympathetically. "She's a fighter, just like you." "We're fighters together," I agreed, squeezing Rachel's fragile hand. Her eyes met mine, searching for something: suspicion, knowledge, hatred. I gave her nothing but loving concern. 3 weeks later, Rachel died. Not from the digoxin. I'd been carefully tapering her exposure once I had all the evidence I needed. No, what killed Rachel was fear. Fear and one fatal mistake. After returning home from the hospital, Rachel grew increasingly paranoid. She stopped eating anything I prepared. She hid her medications. She changed the password on her burner phone. What she didn't know was that I no longer needed access to it. I had everything already. The night she died, I found her in our bathroom, a bottle of my heart medication in her hand. She'd clearly been trying to dispose of it, to eliminate evidence. But in her weakened state, she'd dropped several pills on the floor. When I entered, she startled violently, clutching her chest. Her eyes widened in naked fear. "It was you," she gasped, backing away. "All along." I didn't confirm or deny. I simply watched as her breathing grew labored, her face contorted in pain. The stress, the toxin already in her system, the shock of realizing she'd been caught. It was too much for her damaged heart. I called 911 again, performed CPR again, wept at her side again. This time, the ambulance didn't arrive in time. Rachel was pronounced dead at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Cause of death, cardiac arrest secondary to digoxin toxicity. The medical examiner suspected accidental overdose, possibly due to confusion from her declining cognitive state. I was beyond suspicion, the grieving husband who had done everything possible to save his wife. The community rallied around me. The cancer foundation Rachel had created in my name now held fundraisers for her brave battle. Church members brought casseroles and condolences. Friends donated thousands more to help with funeral expenses. Trevor handled most of the arrangements, playing the devoted friend while secretly raging that his meal ticket had expired before mine. He didn't know I was monitoring his every move, recording his frantic calls to Rachel's attorney, his attempts to access company accounts, his desperate search for the money they'd embezzled together. Money that was long gone, transferred, documented, and reported to the appropriate authorities with an anonymous tip. I planned Rachel's funeral down to the last detail, insisted on an open casket despite Trevor's objections, requested a celebration of life rather than a traditional service, asked for the church's new audio-visual system to be used for a special memorial video. Everyone thought I was being courageous. No one suspected I was orchestrating my masterpiece. The church was packed. 400 people filled the pews. Friends, employees, business associates, church members who donated thousands to Rachel's health crisis. Floral arrangements worth thousands surrounded her open casket. Soft music played as mourners filed past to pay their respects. I sat in the front row, head bowed. Trevor beside me, his hand occasionally squeezing my shoulder in theatrical support. My sister Elise sat on my other side. We'd reconnected shortly after Rachel's hospitalization. She knew nothing of my plan, but had been shocked by my unexpected olive branch after years of estrangement. The pastor spoke movingly about Rachel's courage, her selfless devotion to her ailing husband, her generous spirit. I kept my expression appropriately somber, even as internal laughter threatened to burst from my chest. Then came time for the memorial video I'd prepared. Owen has put together a tribute to Rachel's life and their love story, the pastor announced. He's asked that we witness this celebration of her spirit together. The lights dimmed. The massive screen behind the altar illuminated. Beautiful photos of Rachel appeared. Her graduation, our wedding, vacations in Bali and Paris. A soundtrack of her favorite music played softly beneath. For 3 minutes, it was exactly what everyone expected. Then the screen flickered. Rachel's voice filled the sanctuary, crystal clear from the church's expensive sound system. Once he's gone, it's all ours. That GoFundMe already hit 6 figures. And the cancer bit, they ate it up. Trevor's face appeared on screen, sitting on our couch, Rachel in his lap, both laughing. "To Owen Harmon," Trevor said, raising a glass of my expensive scotch. "The most gullible man in 3 counties." Rachel giggled, clinking her glass against his. "He still thinks I married him for love, as if anyone could love a boring workaholic with a superiority complex." Gasps echoed through the church. Beside me, Trevor had gone rigid, his face draining of color. The video continued mercilessly, Rachel detailing exactly how much digoxin to add to my food. Trevor explaining how they'd forge my signature on company documents once I was too sick to function. Both of them laughing about the Cancer Foundation money they'd collected from our friends and community. I stood slowly as the video played on. With deliberate movements, I walked to stand beside Rachel's open casket, my back to the congregation, facing the damning evidence on screen. Behind me, chaos erupted, shouts of outrage, women crying, men demanding explanations. The pastor tried desperately to stop the video, but the system had been locked. It played on 16 minutes of undeniable evidence. I turned just as the final clip began, Rachel in her hospital bed, Trevor leaning close. "We're too deep now," his voice rang out. "Once he's gone, we'll get you the best treatment money can buy. In the meantime, stick to the story." As the screen went black, I nodded toward the back of the church. The doors opened. Police officers streamed in, led by Detective Wallace, a man I'd been meeting with privately for weeks, building my case one piece of evidence at a time. "Trevor McKinnon," Wallace announced, his voice cutting through the pandemonium. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and insurance fraud." Trevor lunged toward an exit, but officers intercepted him. As they handcuffed him, he screamed at me. "You poisoned her! You killed Rachel!" I approached him slowly, my voice pitched to carry through the now silent sanctuary. "No, Trevor, you killed her. You and Rachel poisoned each other with greed. I just documented it." As they led him away, I returned to the casket. Rachel's face seemed different now. The makeup couldn't hide the corruption underneath. I placed a single white rose on her chest. "Goodbye, Rachel," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I hope it was worth it." The aftermath was exactly as I'd planned. Trevor's trial was swift and devastating. My evidence was irrefutable. He received 25 years for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, plus additional sentences for the financial crimes. Rachel's Cancer Foundation became a national scandal. Court orders forced the liquidation of her personal assets, the jewelry, the designer clothes, the secret accounts she thought I knew nothing about, to reimburse the families who had donated. I filed paperwork to posthumously annul our marriage on grounds of fraud, nullifying any spousal rights she might have claimed from beyond the grave. Her name was legally removed from our business records, her insurance policies voided due to criminal intent. As for me, I recovered miraculously once the mysterious toxin was no longer in my system. I sold our house, too many bad memories, and moved closer to my sister Elise and her family. I restructured the company, promoting loyal employees to fill Trevor's position. I declined all interviews, despite lucrative offers from true crime shows and podcasts. I donated substantial amounts to genuine medical research foundations. I became known as a tragic figure who had shown incredible dignity in the face of unimaginable betrayal. Only in private moments did I allow myself to savor the completeness of my revenge. Not just Rachel's death. That had been an unexpected bonus, courtesy of her own weak heart and guilty conscience. No, the true revenge was the destruction of everything she valued. Her reputation, her social standing, her financial security. Even in death, she would be remembered not as a beloved wife, but as a would-be murderer, a con artist, a failure. 1 year to the day after Rachel's funeral, I visited her grave. The cemetery had initially refused my request for a custom headstone, citing respect for the deceased. But money and legal pressure eventually won out. The simple gray stone bore only her name, birth, and death dates, and below them, the single word I had insisted upon: liar. I placed no flowers. I said no prayers. I simply stood there, feeling nothing but a profound sense of justice satisfied. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed with a notification. A business colleague wondering if I'd be interested in a new development opportunity. Life moving forward. Rachel and Trevor had tried to take everything from me: my health, my company, my dignity, my life. Instead, I had taken everything from them, and that was a revenge worth dying for. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.